Zixtela had seen many species across the galaxy. The Vorthic observer had watched warriors from dozens of worlds demonstrate their fighting abilities. Some had thick armor plating that could stop plasma rounds. Others had claws that could cut through metal. A few possessed telepathic abilities that made them deadly in combat. But humans? Humans looked like they should have died out long ago. The alien stood in the docking bay of the human vessel called New Horizon. Around him, human crew members went about their duties. They were so small compared to most Federation species. Their skin looked thin and soft. No natural armor protected them. No claws extended from their fingers. No enhanced senses guided their movements. They relied on tools and machines for everything. Captain Jake Morrison approached the observation platform where Zixtela waited. The human leader was average height for his species, which meant he barely reached the alien's shoulder. His hair was brown and cut short in military fashion. His eyes were blue and seemed to take in everything around him. "Welcome aboard the New Horizon," Morrison said in the common galactic language. His voice was steady but unremarkable. "I hope your journey here was comfortable." Zixtela nodded with his elongated neck. "It was acceptable. The Federation Council sent me to observe human combat methods. I understand we will be conducting training exercises." Morrison smiled, showing his small white teeth. "That's right. Nothing too complex. We'll be running tactical drills on the third moon of this system. Standard assault scenarios against automated defense systems." The alien made notes on his recording device. Humans use simple training methods compared to other species. Most warrior races threw their young into actual combat to test their abilities. Humans seem to prefer safe simulations. "Your crew appears quite young," Zixtela observed, watching human soldiers move equipment nearby. "Are these experienced?" "Fighters? Some of them," Morrison replied. "Lieutenant Amy Collins has been with us for 3 years. She's our tactical specialist." He pointed to a woman with short black hair who was checking weapon systems. "Sergeant Pete Johnson handles our heavy equipment. He's been in the service for 8 years. Johnson was a large human by their standards, with broad shoulders and thick arms. But even he looked fragile compared to a Krellian warrior or a Saurian shock trooper. His skin was pale and showed no signs of natural protection. "And the others?" Zixtela asked. "Corporal Lisa Martinez is our communications expert. Private Danny Wu handles technical systems. Tony Rodriguez is our medic." Morrison's voice carried a note of pride when he spoke about his team. "They're all good soldiers." The alien studied the humans Morrison had mentioned. Martinez was small even for a human female, with dark skin and quick movements. Wu appeared barely out of adolescence, with smooth features and nervous energy. Rodriguez seemed calm and methodical as he organized medical supplies. "They look very young," Zixtela said. "In Vortex society, warriors train for decades before entering combat." Morrison nodded. "Humans mature differently. These soldiers have all completed extensive training programs. They know their jobs." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Morrison to the bridge. We're approaching the training area." "Excuse me," Morrison said. "We'll be starting the exercise soon. You're welcome to observe from the command center. Or join us on the surface." Zixtela considered the options. "I will accompany the ground team. Direct observation will provide better data for my report." Morrison's expression changed slightly. For just a moment, his eyes seemed to calculate something. Then he smiled again. "Of course. Tony will fit you with appropriate safety gear." The medic approached with equipment designed for the alien's different body structure. As Rodriguez worked, he made small talk about the upcoming exercise. His manner was friendly and professional, but Zixtela noticed how his hands moved with precise efficiency. Even simple tasks seemed to require exact movements from humans. "This is standard level 2 protection," Rodriguez explained as he adjusted the gear. "The training systems are programmed to use non-lethal force, but we always take precautions." "Non-lethal?" Zixtela asked. "How do you train for real combat without real danger?" Rodriguez and Morrison exchanged a look. Human training methods focus on technique and teamwork, the captain said. We believe preparation and coordination matter more than individual strength. The alien found this curious. Most species relied on natural abilities and individual prowess. Humans seem to admit their physical limitations and work around them. It was an interesting approach. If not particularly impressive, the ship shuddered slightly as it entered the moon's atmosphere. Through the viewports, Zixtela could see the training facility below. It was a collection of bunkers and defensive positions built into the rocky surface. Automated systems would provide resistance while the human team practiced their assault techniques. Final equipment check in 5 minutes, Morrison announced. Remember, this is a standard exercise. We go in, neutralize the targets and extract, clean and simple. His team responded with professional acknowledgments. They seemed relaxed and confident. Zixtela made more notes about human psychology. They appeared to view combat as just another job to be completed. As the shuttle prepared for landing, the alien observer settled in to watch what he expected would be a routine demonstration of human military tactics. He had no idea that within hours, everything he thought he knew about these seemingly fragile creatures would be completely destroyed. The shuttle touched down on the rocky surface of the moon with a soft thud. Zixtela stepped out behind the human team and felt the artificial gravity generators kick in. The training facility stretched before them like a maze of concrete and metal. Rising from the barren landscape were dozens of bunkers connected by trenches and defensive walls. Captain Morrison gathered his team around him while the alien observer stayed a few steps back. The humans checked their weapons and equipment. With practiced movements, Lieutenant Collins spread out a digital map on a portable display while Sergeant Johnson adjusted his heavy plasma rifle. Standard approach pattern, Morrison said, pointing to the map. Collins takes point with Wu providing tech support. Martinez handles communications while Johnson covers our advance. Rodriguez stays in the middle ready for medical assistance. Zixtela watched the humans organize. Themselves, they moved with efficiency, but nothing seemed particularly impressive about their methods. Other species he had observed were faster and stronger. The Krellians could leap over obstacles that would block these humans completely. The Saurians had natural armor that made most defensive positions useless. What about retreat procedures? Collins asked, checking her rifle scope. Same as always. Morrison replied, if things get complicated, we fall back to checkpoint Alpha and regroup. Nobody plays hero today. The alien found this interesting. Most warrior cultures encouraged individual acts of bravery. Humans seemed more concerned with group survival than personal glory. It was a practical approach, but hardly inspiring. The team moved toward the first defensive line. Wu carried a device that scanned for electronic systems while Martinez tested her communication equipment. Johnson walked with his weapon ready but not raised. Rodriguez kept his medical kit close at hand. Automated systems coming online. Wu reported, I count 12 defensive turrets in the first section. Basic targeting protocols and standard energy weapons. Morrison nodded. Expected resistance. Nothing we haven't handled before. Everyone knows their job, so let's keep this simple. The first turret activated as they approached. The red targeting beam swept across the ground in front of them. Collins raised her hand and the team stopped. She studied the pattern for several seconds before signaling the others to move left. Predictable timing, she said quietly. We can slip through the coverage gap on the eastern side. The humans moved in a line following Collins around the defensive position. Zixtela noted how they stayed low and used natural cover. Even their movement patterns seemed designed to minimize exposure rather than maximize speed. The second turret began firing training rounds that would sting but not seriously injure. The humans scattered and found cover behind rocks and metal barriers. They did not panic or charge forward. Instead, they waited and watched. Pattern recognition complete. Collins reported, turret rotates every 15 seconds with a 3-second pause for targeting. Johnson, can you reach it from your position? Johnson raised his weapon and aimed carefully. Clear shot in 10 seconds, the alien observer made mental notes about human patience. Most species would have rushed the position or tried to overwhelm it with superior firepower. Humans seemed content to wait for the perfect moment Johnson fired. Once the training round hit the turret's sensor array and the system shut down, the team moved forward without celebration or discussion. It was just another task completed. Next section has mobile units, Wu announced, scanning ahead. 4 automated rovers with light weapons. They'll try to flank us. Morrison considered this information. Martinez, can you jam their coordination signals? Already working on it, Martinez replied, adjusting her equipment. Their communication frequency is standard military band. I can disrupt it, but only for about 5 minutes. The rovers appeared from behind a concrete barrier. Moving toward the human position on mechanical legs, they were about the size of large dogs and armed with energy weapons designed for training scenarios. Jamming active now, Martinez said. The rovers immediately began moving in confused patterns. Without their coordination signals, they bumped into each other and fired at random targets. Collins used the confusion to advance while Johnson provided covering fire. Wu ran forward with a small device and attached it to one of the rovers. The machine stopped moving and began following his commands instead of continuing its attack. Reprogramming complete. Wu reported, "This one is now on our side." Zixtella found this tactic unusual. Most species would have destroyed the enemy units outright. Humans seemed to prefer converting problems into advantages whenever possible. Captured rover began firing on its former allies while the human team advanced through the defensive position. They worked together smoothly, with each member contributing their specialized skills. Checkpoint Alpha secured. Morrison announced time to target elimination was 8 minutes. Standard performance for this scenario. The team took a brief rest while Wu studied the next section of the course. Collins cleaned her weapon while Johnson checked his ammunition. Rodriguez organized his medical supplies. Martinez maintained her communication equipment. Systems malfunction detected, Wu said, suddenly looking at his scanner. The automated controls are showing error messages. Morrison frowned. What kind of errors? Safety protocols are offline. Wu replied, his voice showing concern for the first time. The training systems are. Switching to live ammunition mode, the alien observer felt a chill run through his body. Live ammunition meant real danger. The safe training exercise was becoming something else entirely. Can you fix it from here? Morrison asked. Wu shook his head. The main control system is in the central facility. We would need to reach it and manually reset the protocols. Morrison looked at his team, then at the defensive positions ahead. How long before the change takes effect? Maybe 10 minutes, Wu said. After that, all the automated systems will be using lethal force. The humans exchanged glances, but nobody spoke about retreating. Instead, they began checking their equipment more carefully. Rodriguez opened his medical kit and made sure everything was ready. Johnson switched his weapon to a higher power setting. Orders, sir. Collins asked. Morrison studied the map for a long moment. We continue the mission. Real ammunition just means we need to be more careful. Zixtella could not believe what he was hearing. The humans were choosing to continue into a situation that had become genuinely dangerous. They should have retreated and called for technical support. Instead, they were treating it like a minor adjustment to their plans. 10 minutes. To weapons hot, Morrison announced, let's move. The change happened so fast that Zixtella almost missed it. One moment the humans were moving through the training course with relaxed efficiency. The next moment everything was different. The air itself seemed to become thicker and more dangerous. Danny? Wu was checking his scanner when the first live round struck the rock beside his head. The plasma bolt left a smoking crater where training ammunition would have left only a small mark. Wu dropped flat against the ground and rolled behind cover. Without hesitation, live fire confirmed, Collins said into her communicator. Her voice was calm, but something else had entered it, something cold and focused. All units switched to combat protocols immediately. Morrison's face changed in a way that made the alien observer step back. The captain's friendly expression disappeared completely. His eyes became sharp and calculating. His movements turned precise and economical. Every gesture now had purpose. Rodriguez, get to Wu and check for injuries. Morrison ordered. Johnson, suppress that turret while Collins finds us a new approach route. Martinez, I need constant communication with base about our situation. The humans moved with a speed and coordination that seemed impossible moments before. Johnson's weapon fired 3 times in rapid succession. Each shot hit the automated turret with perfect accuracy. The system exploded in a shower of sparks and metal fragments. Rodriguez reached Wu in seconds, despite the distance between them. His medical training became evident as he quickly examined the younger soldier for wounds. Wu had a small cut on his forehead from flying rock fragments, but was otherwise unhurt, minor laceration only. Rodriguez reported as he applied a quick bandage. "Danny's ready to continue," Wu nodded and immediately returned to his scanner. The close call with death seemed to have sharpened his focus rather than frightened him. He worked with his equipment faster and more accurately than before. "Next section shows heavy automated defense," Wu announced. "Multiple turrets with overlapping fields of fire, plus mobile units that are now using military-grade weapons." Collins studied the terrain ahead with new intensity. She pointed to specific locations and traced movement patterns with her finger. Her tactical planning had become more detailed and aggressive. "Standard approach won't work anymore," she said. "We need to use the maintenance tunnels that run under the facility. They weren't designed for combat, but they'll give us cover." Morrison considered this option. "Tunnels could be a trap if the systems detect us. Better than crossing open ground against live fire." Collins replied, "I can get us through." The alien observer watched this exchange with growing unease. The humans were adapting to the deadly situation with remarkable speed. Their training procedures were being abandoned in favor of more aggressive tactics. Martinez worked with her communication equipment while monitoring multiple frequency bands. "Base confirms the malfunction is widespread," she reported. "All training facilities in this sector are affected. Technical teams are working on a solution, but it could take hours. Hours we don't have," Morrison said. "We either complete the mission or find another way out." Johnson pointed toward the facility's central complex. "Shortest route is still straight through the main defensive line. Even with live ammunition, we can handle automated systems." "Negative," Morrison replied. "We're not taking unnecessary risks with our people. The tunnel approach gives us better odds." Zixtala found this decision fascinating. Most warrior species would have chosen the direct assault to demonstrate their courage and strength. Humans seemed more concerned with achieving their objectives than proving their bravery. The team moved toward the tunnel entrance, which was partially hidden behind a fallen barrier. Wu used his technical skills to override the electronic lock, while Collins kept watch for automated patrols. "Entry secured," Wu announced. "Tunnel system extends throughout the facility, but some sections may be monitored." Rodriguez organized his medical supplies for easier access in the confined space if anyone gets hurt. "Down there extraction will be more difficult." "Then we don't get hurt," Morrison said simply. The tunnel was dark and narrow, with barely enough room for the humans to move in single file. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the metal walls. The air smelled of machinery and recycled atmosphere. Collins led the way with her weapon ready, while Johnson brought up the rear. Martinez maintained communication with the surface, though the signal was weak through the earth and metal. Wu monitored. For electronic surveillance systems, they had traveled maybe 50 meters when the first explosion rocked the tunnel above them. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling as automated systems began bombarding the surface. "They know we're down here," Collins said. "Systems are trying to collapse the tunnels." "Keep moving," Morrison ordered. "We're committed now." The second explosion was closer. Water began dripping from damaged pipes. While electrical systems sparked and flickered, the tunnel network was becoming more dangerous with each passing moment. "Structural integrity compromised," Wu reported. "These tunnels weren't built to withstand this kind of bombardment." Rodriguez checked his medical kit again. "If someone gets trapped under debris, we'll need to work fast." Another explosion shook the facility. The tunnel lights went out completely, leaving them in darkness. Collins activated a small flashlight and continued forward without hesitation. "Emergency lighting only from now on," she announced. "Save battery power for when we really need it." Zixtala struggled to keep up with the human pace. The confined space and constant explosions made him nervous, but the humans seemed to thrive in the dangerous environment. They moved with confidence. "Despite the obvious risks, branch tunnel ahead," Collins reported. "Wu, which direction takes us to the central facility?" Wu consulted his scanner. "Left passage leads to the main complex, but it passes directly under the heavy weapons platform." "Right." Passage, Morrison asked. Longer route, but safer, Wu replied. Takes us around the defensive perimeter. Collins was already moving toward the left tunnel. Heavy weapons platform is our target anyway. This saves time. Morrison grabbed her shoulder. Safety. First, Collins, we take the long way. The lieutenant stopped and nodded. Understood, sir. But Zixtala had seen something in her eyes during that brief moment. Something that suggested she was thinking differently about their situation. The humans were changing, and the alien observer was beginning to understand that he was witnessing something far more significant than a simple training malfunction. The tunnel system stretched deeper into the facility than Zixtala had expected. The humans moved through the narrow passages with growing confidence despite the continued explosions above them. Their flashlights created moving circles of light that danced across metal walls and exposed pipes. Collins led them through a series of turns and junctions. Wu's scanner showed multiple routes, but she seemed to know exactly where she was going. Her movements became more fluid and predatory with each step forward. Intersection ahead, she whispered. 3 passages branching off from the main tunnel. Morrison moved up beside her. Which way to the central complex? Middle passage, Wu replied, checking his equipment. But I'm detecting movement in that direction. Automated patrol units. Collins studied the junction with intense focus. How many units? 4 mobile platforms, Wu said. Standard security configuration, but now equipped with live ammunition. The alien observer watched the humans process this information. Their earlier friendly conversations had been replaced by short, tactical exchanges. Every word now served a specific purpose. Can we go around them? Rodriguez asked. Negative, Collins replied. All alternate routes pass through areas with structural damage, too dangerous to attempt. Morrison considered their options. We'll have to deal with the patrol units directly. Johnson checked his weapon. 4 targets in a confined space should be manageable. Zixtala felt a chill at the casual way Johnson discussed combat. The human spoke about destroying automated systems like he was planning routine maintenance. Martinez, can you disrupt their targeting systems? Morrison asked. Already working on it, Martinez replied. But the jamming will only last for maybe 3 minutes in these tunnels. Collins moved to the junction and peered around the corner. Units are in defensive formation. They're expecting us. Expected, Morrison said. The facility's central computer is coordinating their response. Wu activated additional scanning equipment. I might be able to confuse their sensors with false readings. Do it, Morrison ordered. The young soldier worked quickly with his technical gear. Within moments, the patrol units began moving in confused patterns. Their coordination broke down as false signals overwhelmed their systems. Window is open, Wu announced, but not for long. Collins was already moving before Morrison could give the order. She slipped around the corner. With her weapon ready, her movements were so quiet that even Zixtala's enhanced hearing barely detected them. Johnson followed her with his heavier weapon while Rodriguez and Martinez provided support. Wu stayed back to maintain his electronic interference. The first patrol unit never saw Collins coming. Her weapon fired once, and the machine collapsed in a shower of sparks. The second unit began turning toward her position, but Johnson's shot destroyed it before it could acquire a target. Third and fourth units tried to coordinate their response, but Wu's jamming kept them from communicating effectively. Collins and Johnson worked together to eliminate them with precise shots. Threats neutralized, Collins reported. Passage is clear. The entire engagement had lasted less than 30 seconds. Zixtala was stunned by the efficiency of the human response. They had eliminated 4 automated defenders without taking a single casualty. Move out, Morrison ordered before more units arrive. The team continued through the tunnel system, but something had changed in their behavior. The successful combat engagement seemed to have awakened something deeper in their nature. Collins moved with predatory grace, her head turned constantly as she searched for threats. Her weapon remained ready at all times. Johnson followed close behind with his heavy rifle tracking potential firing positions. Wu's technical skills had become more aggressive. He no longer just detected enemy systems, but actively worked to disable or confuse them. His scanner showed hostile signatures throughout the facility. Central complex is directly above us, Wu announced. But there's a problem. What kind of problem? Morrison asked. The tunnel ends at a maintenance shaft, Wu replied. We'll have to climb up into the main facility. but that puts us right in the middle of their defensive perimeter. Rodriguez checked his medical supplies again. Climbing makes us vulnerable if someone gets hit during the ascent extraction. Becomes very difficult. Martinez tested her communication equipment. Signal strength is good here. I can maintain contact with base during the climb. Morrison studied the shaft entrance. How long to reach the surface? Maybe 2 minutes, Wu said. But the shaft is narrow. Only one person can climb at a time. Collins examined the shaft opening that makes us sitting targets, unless we change the situation. Johnson said, "What if we don't climb?" Explain, Morrison said. Johnson pointed upward. Maintenance shaft probably connects to the ventilation system. We could use that to reach different parts of the facility. Wu consulted his scanner. Ventilation network does extend throughout the complex, but it's not designed for human passage. Will fit, Collins said with certainty, and they won't expect us to approach from the air system. Zixtela watched this planning session with growing unease. The humans were discussing infiltration techniques that seemed impossible for their physical capabilities, yet they spoke with complete confidence. Rodriguez, can you handle the medical kit in confined spaces? Morrison asked. Affirmative, Rodriguez replied. Modified packaging for narrow access. Martinez communications, portable equipment. Only, Martinez said, but I can maintain essential links. Morrison nodded. We go up through the ventilation system. Collins takes point. Johnson covers our rear. Wu provides technical support. The team began preparing for the climb. Wu attached his scanner to a harness while Collins secured her weapon for easy access. Rodriguez reorganized his medical supplies for maximum portability. Once we're in the main facility, the real challenge begins. Morrison said, automated defenses will be at maximum strength. Johnson smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Good, I'm tired of playing games. Collins checked her equipment one final time. Time to show these machines what humans can really do. The alien observer felt something cold settle in his chest. The humans were no longer treating this as a dangerous situation to be survived. They were approaching it as a hunt to be enjoyed. Zixtela was beginning to understand that he was about to witness something that would change his understanding of these supposedly fragile creatures forever. The ventilation shaft was darker and more cramped than the tunnels. Collins climbed first with her weapon strapped to her back. She moved through the narrow space like she had been born for it. Her breathing remained steady despite the confined conditions. Schichtol followed behind Morrison and struggled with the tight passages. His larger frame made every movement difficult. The humans seemed to flow through spaces that barely accommodated their bodies. Contact ahead, Collins whispered. Through the communication system, large chamber with multiple automated systems. Wu checked his scanner from his position further back. Main security hub, 12 defensive turrets plus roving patrol units. Morrison's voice came through clearly despite the metal walls. Options, standard approach would be suicide, Collins replied, but there's something else. The ventilation system opens directly above their central processing unit. Johnson's voice carried a new tone of interest. Direct access to their brain. Exactly, Collins said. We could drop right into their command center. Rodriguez expressed concern. That puts us in the middle of their strongest defenses, which is why they won't expect it. Collins replied, sometimes the most dangerous approach is the safest. Zixtela listened to this exchange with growing alarm. The humans were discussing tactics that seemed designed to maximize risk rather than minimize it. Wu, can you disrupt their systems from close range? Morrison asked. If I can get to the main console, I can shut down their entire defensive network. Wu replied, but I'll need maybe 5 minutes of uninterrupted access. 5 minutes is a long time under heavy fire. Martinez said, then we make sure they're too busy to fire at Wu. Johnson said. Collins had reached the ventilation grate above the security chamber. I can see the whole room from here. Automated systems are in standard patrol patterns. Central console is directly below us. How many hostiles? Morrison asked. 15 automated units, Collins replied. Mixed types. Heavy turrets, light patrol units, and 2 large combat platforms. Johnson made a sound that might have been laughter. 15 against 5, good odds. Zixtela could not understand how the human calculated those as good odds. Most rational beings would retreat when facing such overwhelming numbers. Here's what we do, Morrison said. Collins drops first and secures the immediate area. Johnson follows with heavy weapon support. Wu goes straight to the console while Rodriguez and Martinez provide cover. What about extraction? Rodriguez asked. We improvise, Morrison replied. First priority is shutting down their defensive network, the alien observer realized the humans were. Planning to sacrifice their own safety for mission success, it was a level of dedication that seemed almost insane. Collins began working on the ventilation grate with quiet efficiency. She removed the metal covering without making any noise that would alert the systems below. Ready when you are, she whispered. Execute. Morrison ordered Collins drop through the opening and landed in the center of the security chamber. Her weapon was firing before her feet touched the ground. 3 automated turrets exploded in rapid succession. Johnson followed immediately, his heavy rifle. Destroying 2 patrol units before they could react his landing was harder than Collins, but he rolled and came up shooting. Wu dropped third and ran directly toward the central console while Collins and Johnson provided covering fire. Rodriguez and Martinez landed last and took defensive positions. The automated systems began responding to the human intrusion. Alarms sounded throughout the facility while defensive turrets swiveled toward the intruders. Energy weapons began firing in all directions. Console access in 30 seconds, Wu shouted over the noise of combat. Collins moved with impossible speed between the automated defenders, her weapon fired with perfect accuracy while she used the machine's own positions for cover. Johnson's heavy rifle created explosive destruction wherever he aimed, multiple hostiles converging on our position. Martinez reported additional units are responding from other sections. Rodriguez worked to keep his medical supplies ready while staying behind cover. This is going to get much worse before it gets better. Wu, how much longer? Morrison called out. Almost there. Wu replied, just need to bypass their security protocols. A heavy combat platform emerged from an alcove and began firing high-energy rounds at the human positions. Collins threw herself sideways to avoid the shots while Johnson returned fire with his rifle. That thing has too much armor, Johnson announced. Standard weapons won't penetrate. Collins studied the combat platform for several seconds. Wu, can you override its friend or foe identification? Maybe, Wu said while working frantically at the console. Give me another minute. The combat platform fired again. Rodriguez had to drag his medical supplies to a new position as energy bolts destroyed his previous cover. 30 seconds, Wu announced. Almost got it. More automated units entered the chamber from connecting passages. The humans were becoming surrounded by hostile systems. Morrison began firing at the new arrivals while Martinez worked to jam their coordination signals. Got it, Wu shouted. System override complete. The combat platform stopped firing and began attacking the other automated systems instead. Wu had turned their heaviest weapon against them. The tide of battle shifted immediately. Collins and Johnson used the confusion to destroy the remaining turrets while the reprogrammed combat platform eliminated the patrol units. Defensive network is down, Wu announced. All automated systems in this sector are offline. The chamber fell silent except for the sound of burning electronics and settling debris. The humans had eliminated 15 automated defenders without suffering a single casualty, but Zixtella noticed something that chilled him to his core. The humans were not celebrating their victory or showing relief at their survival. Instead, they looked disappointed, as if the fight had ended too quickly. That was too easy, Johnson said, reloading his weapon. Main facility defenses are still active, Collins replied. We'll have more targets soon. Morrison checked his equipment. Objective complete for this sector. Time to move to the next phase. The alien observer realized that the humans were not just surviving the deadly situation. They were enjoying it. The combat had awakened something in their nature that seemed to hunger for more violence, and there was still more. Facility to clear. More automated systems to destroy the humans were moving deeper into danger with eager anticipation rather than reluctant duties. Ixthala began to understand that he was not witnessing a rescue mission or a survival situation. He was watching predators hunt, and the automated systems were just the prey. The main facility's central core was a vast chamber filled with processing equipment and defense systems. Zixtala followed the human team through corridors that led deeper into the complex. The automated defenses had become more sophisticated and aggressive with each level they descended. Motion sensors throughout this section, Wu announced, scanning ahead. Plus thermal imaging and acoustic detection, they know we're coming. Collins studied the readings on Wu's scanner. Good, let them. No, Morrison looked at his tactical specialist, explained that strategy. They're expecting us to avoid detection, Collins replied. But if we announce our presence, they'll have to respond with predetermined patterns. We can use those patterns against them. Johnson nodded with approval. Predictable enemies are dead enemies. The alien observer found their logic disturbing. Most species would try to remain hidden when facing superior numbers. The humans seem to prefer making themselves obvious. Targets. Martinez, can you broadcast our position to all facility systems? Morrison asked. Already done, Martinez replied. Every automated defender in the complex knows exactly where we are. Rodriguez checked his medical supplies. This is either brilliant or completely insane. Both, Collins said, and she smiled in a way that made Zixtela step back. The first wave of automated defenders came from 3 different directions. 20 mobile units converged on their position with weapons ready. The humans spread out into a defensive formation that seemed to invite attack. Here they come, Johnson said, and his voice carried anticipation rather than fear. Collins moved to the left while Johnson took the right. Morrison, Wu, Rodriguez, and Martinez held the center position. Zixtela crouched behind the equipment console and watched the automated units open fire immediately. Energy weapons lit up the chamber as they tried to eliminate the human intruders, but the humans were no longer where the systems expected them to be. Collins had used the equipment layout to create a maze of cover positions. She moved between the machines with fluid grace. Her weapon fired precisely at each target. She encountered Johnson used his heavier rifle to destroy multiple units with single shots. Second wave incoming, Wu announced. Heavier units this time. Perfect, Collins replied. The second wave included combat platforms and heavy turrets that emerged from concealed positions throughout the chamber. These systems had armor that could withstand the humans' standard weapons. We need a new approach, Morrison said. Those heavy units are too well protected. Wu was already working on his technical equipment. I can override their targeting systems, but I need to get closer. Negative, Morrison replied. Too dangerous. I can do it, Wu insisted. Just need cover for maybe 60 seconds. Collins was studying the heavy units with intense focus. I have an idea. Those platforms use proximity sensors to avoid collisions. So, Johnson asked, so what if we make them collide with each other? Collins replied. Rodriguez understood immediately. Turn their safety systems into weapons. Exactly, Collins said. Wu, can you confuse their proximity sensors? Wu nodded. Already working on it. The young soldier ran directly toward the heavy combat platforms while Collins and Johnson provided covering fire. His technical device projected false readings that confused the automated systems. The combat platforms began moving erratically as their sensors detected obstacles that did not exist. They tried to avoid collisions with phantom objects and crashed into each other instead. Beautiful, Johnson said as 2 heavy units destroyed each other. The remaining automated defenders tried to adapt their tactics, but the humans stayed one step ahead. Collins used their own weapons against them by positioning herself so their shots would hit other machines. Wu reached the central processing unit and began working on the main control system. I can shut down their entire network from here. Do it, Morrison ordered. Wait, Collins said. Don't shut them down yet. Morrison looked at her with surprise. Why not? Because this is too easy, Collins replied. There has to be a final defensive protocol, something they're saving for last. Johnson grinned. She's right. They're holding back their best systems. Wu paused with his hands over the controls. Collins might be correct. The facility's main computer has been too passive. Then we find out what they're hiding, Morrison said. Rodriguez organized his medical supplies. I don't like where this is going. Martinez, can you access their command protocols? Morrison asked. Martinez worked with her communication equipment trying to break into their system now. The chamber fell quiet as the remaining automated defenders stopped their attack. They returned to standby positions and waited. That's not normal behavior, Wu observed. They're preparing something. Collins said, something big. Martinez made a sound of alarm. I'm reading massive power buildup in the facility's core systems. What kind of power buildup? Morrison asked. Enough to level this entire section, Martinez replied. They're planning to destroy the whole facility with us inside. Johnson checked his weapon. How long do we have? Maybe 5 minutes, Wu said. The core systems are building toward critical overload. Collins moved toward the central processing unit. Then we stop them. Wu. Can you prevent the overload? Morrison asked. Maybe, Wu replied. But I need direct access to the core reactor. Where is it? Collins asked, 3 levels down. Wu said, through the heaviest defensive positions in the facility, Rodriguez started repacking. His medical supplies, 3 levels in 5 minutes, that's impossible. No, Collins said. It's just difficult. Johnson was already moving toward the exit. Difficult is what we do. Morrison looked at his team. Everyone understands the situation. We either stop this overload or we all die here. The humans nodded without hesitation. They were choosing to face certain death rather than retreat to safety. Wu leads us to the reactor, Morrison ordered. Collins finds us the fastest route, Johnson handles heavy resistance. Rodriguez keeps us alive, Martinez maintains communication. The team moved toward the lower levels with determined purpose. They were running directly into the facility's strongest defenses with almost no time to complete. Their missions. Ixthala followed them with growing horror. The humans were not just accepting certain death. They were embracing it as if it were their natural state, and something in their eyes suggested they were going to succeed through sheer force of will. The reactor core was 3 levels deeper than anything Ixthala had imagined possible. The facility's automated systems threw everything they had at the human team: heavy combat platforms, laser defense grids, automated turrets, and mobile hunter units all converged on their position. Collins led them through a maze of corridors that seemed designed to funnel intruders into killing zones. But she moved with an understanding of the facility's layout that seemed almost supernatural. She found passages that the automated systems had not anticipated. 2 minutes to critical overload, Wu announced while running behind her. Johnson destroyed a combat platform with a single shot to its power core. Then we better move faster. The humans were no longer following normal tactical procedures. They ran directly toward the heaviest resistance while firing at anything that moved. Morrison coordinated their advance with short commands while Rodriguez treated injuries without stopping. Martinez maintained constant communication with the surface. Base confirms reactor overload will destroy everything within 10 kilometers. Good thing we're stopping it, Collins replied. The alien observers struggled to keep up with their pace. The humans moved through the facility like they owned it, their weapons fired with perfect accuracy while they advanced toward certain death. Final defensive line ahead. Wu reported, everything the facility has left is protecting the reactor core. How much? Everything, Morrison asked. 50 automated units, Wu said. Plus the facility's main combat system. Johnson grinned. Finally a real fight. The final chamber was vast and filled with the most advanced automated defenders the facility possessed. Heavy turrets lined the walls while mobile platforms patrolled the floor. The reactor core sat in the center, surrounded by energy shields. 1 minute to overload, Wu announced. Collins studied the defensive arrangement. Standard assault won't work. We need to be creative. Define creative, Morrison said. Collins pointed to the ceiling. The reactor cooling system. Those pipes carry liquid coolant under high pressure. Johnson understood immediately. We rupture the cooling system and flood the chamber. Exactly. Collins said, the automated systems aren't designed for underwater combat. Rodriguez looked at the massive pipes. That's assuming we can survive underwater long enough to reach the reactor. We can, Collins said with absolute certainty. Wu was already working on his technical equipment. I can override the cooling system controls from here. Do it, Morrison ordered. Wu triggered the coolant release. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the facility as liquid coolant began pouring into the chamber. The automated defenders tried to adapt, but their systems were not designed for aquatic environments. The humans held their breath and swam through the flooding chamber. Collins led them directly toward the reactor core while Johnson provided covering. Fire underwater. His weapon worked even when submerged. 30 seconds, Wu managed to say before diving under the coolant. The reactor core's energy shields flickered and failed as the coolant interfered with their power systems. Collins reached the main control panel and began working frantically to stop the Overload Johnson held off the few automated defenders that could still function in the liquid environment. His shots created explosive bubbles in the coolant as he destroyed each target. Rodriguez helped War reach the reactor controls while Martinez tried to maintain communication with the surface. The liquid made everything more difficult, but the humans adapted instantly. 10 seconds, Wu announced. Collins's hands moved over the controls with impossible speed. She shut down power systems and rerouted energy flows while the reactor core built toward critical mass. 5 seconds, the reactor core's warning lights changed from red to yellow, then to green. Collins had stopped the overload. With less than 2 seconds remaining, the facility's emergency systems began draining the coolant from the chamber. The humans emerged from the liquid breathing heavily but alive. Overload prevented, Wu announced. All systems are stable. Johnson looked around at the destroyed automated defenders. Is that all of them? Facility is completely pacified. Wu confirmed no hostile systems remain active. Morrison checked his team for injuries. Everyone operational. The humans had minor cuts and bruises, but no serious wounds. They had fought their way through the most advanced automated defenses in the galaxy and emerged victorious. Mission complete, Morrison announced. Time to return to base. The team began moving toward the exit, but Zixtella remained frozen in place. What he had witnessed was impossible by every standard of galactic military doctrine. Humans had faced overwhelming odds and turned them into advantages. They had adapted to underwater combat in seconds. They had stopped a reactor overload while under enemy fire. They had done things that no other species could have accomplished, but what haunted the alien observer most was how they had enjoyed every moment of it. The humans had not just survived the impossible situation, they had thrived in it. You coming? Morrison asked the alien observer. Zixtella nodded and followed them toward the surface, but his mind was already composing the report he would file with the Federation Council. Years later, he would still dream about what he had seen in that facility, the humans moving through combat like they were born for it, the way they turned every disadvantage into a weapon, the absolute certainty in their voices when they chose to face death rather than retreat. Other species fought when they had to. The humans fought because they wanted to. Other species used tools and tactics. The humans became tools and tactics. Other species had warriors. The humans were warriors. The Federation had always wondered why humanity had never been conquered despite their apparent physical weaknesses. Now Zixtala understood the truth. Humanity had never been conquered because they were the conquerors. They just hadn't realized it yet. The alien observer filed his report with a single recommendation: the Federation should do everything possible to ensure that humanity remained their ally, because any species that could turn a training malfunction into a demonstration of tactical superiority was not a species anyone wanted as an enemy. But late at night, when the dreams came, Zixtella would remember the look in Collins's eyes when she saw the automated defenders, the hunger in Johnson's voice when he counted their enemies, the casual way Morrison had led his team toward certain death, and the alien observer would wonder if the Federation had already made their choice by allowing themselves to be observed by creatures who treated impossible odds as entertainment. The humans had shown him what they could do on a battlefield, and it would haunt him for the rest of his life.